discoveries in a proven mining district. It's a high-grade mining district. Disclaimers, only part of it's showing up. We have a copy of that. The bottom part's not showing up for some reason. Anyways, we're trading around 12 cents. We've got a market cap of about 14 million. We just put out a news release of a high-grade intercept on one of our projects. We got 9.6 grams gold over about 11 meters. And we've got another hole fairly close to that. We're expecting results in that next week. It seems to correlate very well. We'll hopefully see the same type of results. And we're hoping to get some very important targets through the permitting process by the end of November, maybe early December. So that's what we have to look forward to. I think it's a very good time to own Adamera at these price ranges. It's a proven mining district. It's a high-grade district. We're in northeast Washington State. We can work all year round, and I think it's really important right now. Some of the targets that we've got, we want to be able to drill all year round. There's a mill on site, or fairly close to us. It's on care and maintenance. It's owned by Kinross. It's politically stable, and of course, this area hasn't been looked at since about the early 1990s, so it's very underexplored by modern methods. And that's really given us a real edge for some of the new technology. We're in what's called the Boundary Gold District. This area has produced anywhere from 10 to 17 million ounces, depending who you talk to. We're in the southern part of that in Washington State, where there's been about 6 million ounces produced in fairly recent times. So it's a really prospective part of that district. Here's a close-up of that. These are the mines that contributed to that 6 million ounces. The most recent mine would be the Buckhorn that was run by Kinross. It was recently closed down. But for example, 1.3 million ounces of 12 grams per ton. That was probably the third highest grade operating mine last year in the USA. We've got projects around K2, around Republic. I'm not going to talk about those. I will talk about that project, which is called the Cook Mountain Project, and I'll go through that. Cook Mountain Project has produced about 1 million ounces in the 1990s. It was mostly Echo Bay, which was bought by Kinross. You'll see central to our land package, there's a mill in that region. And the mines that contributed to that ore, Lamefoot, Key West, Key East, and Overlook. Infrastructure also includes, apart from that mill, haul roads through the areas, power, and of course a highway. I talk about modern exploration methods. This is a key data set for us. We did this late 2016. It's an EM survey, a VTEM survey to be exact. We flew that because it hadn't been flown in the past. It's something new for this area. The last big wave of exploration was in the early 90s. The ore in this area is gold that occurs with massive sulfides and magnetite. So being massive sulfides, it's a conductor, and this is a deep penetrating EM system, so we should be able to see these things. We flew that survey, and we could see, out of the 5 known deposits in that region, we could see all 5 of them, model the results, and see if we see similar features on our land. And that was a real step forward. We developed a lot of targets, and we started to drill. We drilled 12 holes so far this year. This area, we call it our most recent discovery. It's early days for a discovery. We drilled 7 holes on that. That's the Oversight Overlook project. To the south, we drilled 2 targets, HLK 1 and 2, and then we went west and we drilled what's called the Big Banana and some other good foot targets. We'll take a look at Overlook and Oversight. What you're looking at here is that rectangle is a large modeled plate. It's the EM. It is 900 meters in size. In the central part of that is what's called the Overlook Deposit, and that's the outline of that. What's important is that VTEM conductor is much bigger than the actual mine. And that mine produced about 400 to 500,000 ounces, so that's the size of that. We drilled some targets up to the northwest. We hit some high-grade zones there. That's where we got the 9.6 grams per ton over 11 meters. But we also drilled another smaller plate to the southeast, where we intersected some high-grade values and fairly shallow in the stratigraphy as we're trying to hit another plate. And I'll walk you through some of this. And what's really important here is, one, we hit deep mineralization, deep being 200 to 220 meters. And this is the conductive high sulfide bearing ore. And then we hit a second, more shallow zone, which has got no sulfides practically that are visible, highly silicified, and it's in the 20 to 40, even 60 meter range. Okay, so I'll just walk you through some of these really quickly. Here's some of the shallow mineralization we hit. OS 1703 and 01, we were hitting things like 15 grams per ton. We've seen intervals 15 grams per ton over 1.5 meters. There's a 2.8 meter zone of 6.5 grams per ton. These are actually pretty good results. You can see the core. These are good results considering they were accidental discoveries. What we were really shooting for is that bright red area, a conductive zone. That didn't carry a lot of gold, but what we did hit was that high-grade mineralization further up in the hole. This hole is where we hit the high-grade zone. This is it. We hit high-grade mineralization with massive sulfides and magnetite at about 208 meters. And you can see that's 9.6 grams over 10 meters, but look at some of the other intervals. You're seeing 15 grams over 4 meters, 11 grams over 2.5 meters. It's some pretty good-looking zones. That's the core. Very different from what I showed you in the last picture. And I think this is a really important hole. We drilled about 35 meters north of that last hole, 06, and we hit a similar sulfide zone. Correlates very well, and we're waiting for results, and we hope to see that next week. And that could be a real game changer for the company. All right, one thing that's really important about what we learned on this program, we drilled 7 holes here. This is the VTEM conductor. This is how we target the deeper material. And we've got 300 meters on either side of the Overlook Deposit to explore, so it's going to take a number of holes to do that. One thing we know about this deep material, it's not contributing gold to the soils. And here we see some very significant soil anomalies with gold in soils, and that's what we think is coming from the shallow mineralization. So if we're going to start targeting shallow mineralization at 20 to 60 meters, we're looking at some pretty cheap drilling, shallow targets, and we're going to start testing these geochemical anomalies. And we're looking at some other geophysical methods as well, like resistivity. All that silica should make a very good resistor. So very robust target. We're looking for deeper mineralization and higher mineralization. Look at the size of Overlook. That was about 500,000 ounces. So I think we've got a pretty robust project potentially here. While we were drilling, we're always looking at other targets. We did a lot of target development. We developed really 3 top priority targets, including what we just looked at oversight. We have a lot of moderate to high priority targets and a lot of developing targets. And I'll just show you one or two of these high priority targets. For example, this is called SE1. It's in a new district within our block. There are no other mines in that area. It's about 4 kilometers from the mill, and it's on the DeGraw Margin. It was first discovered using the VTEM. It identified a very strong conductor. In fact, the strongest conductor on the entire survey. It's a good-sized target, and it's at about 30 to 70 meters depth, so it's a blind target. It's on the DeGraw Margin, and that's important because out of probably 95% of the deposits in this region are along the DeGraw Margin, along that structure. And we like it a lot because we see a break in that structure, and these are places that you get fluids coming up in a great place for an accumulation of metals. Here's another example of that. Here's a topographic map with the DeGraw Margin. And you see in that circle a little deflection in the topography. Here's where our conductor sits in orange. And that's telling us that there's something very serious, it is a geological phenomenon changing that topography. The yellow rectangle is the EM conductor. The purple blob is magnetics. And you can see how coincident they are. And that magnetics is coming from that same airborne survey. Well, we take this stuff and we do very detailed work, 25-meter spaced ground magnetic data. And look at the difference between that and the airborne. Look at the structure you see. This is a very special area. There's a lot going on here. And just to show you how coincident the EM is with the magnetics, I'll just walk you through a quick little cross-section. The red is the conductor, the gray is the magnetics. And as you rotate that around, this is a very strong coincident anomaly. Now let's take a look at how that sits with geochemistry, soils, arsenic, perfect coincidence. Other pathfinder for gold, copper, also a very good coincidence. And the best pathfinder for gold is, of course, gold. And we're seeing gold, and especially on the most shallow part of that conductor. So this is a very good target. We see other high values of gold that we haven't been able to see with the EM, but this is a very strong target for us, and we hope to get that out of permitting, or through permitting by the end of this month, and drilling it shortly after. One last thing really quickly, Key West target. This is something that a lot of you don't know probably. We staked this piece of ground. It was dropped by one of our competitors in the region. It's the open pit from Key West. In the pit, you can see the ore. It goes into the pit wall. Our EM shows that it's much more extensive than the pit. We've sampled this. We get 40 grams out of little veins. We get 7 or 8 grams out of some of the massive sulfide ore. So this is a pretty interesting target. A lot of conductors, good soil geochemistry. And again, here's one of these modeled features. The colored cubes are EM. The gray is magnetics. And looking eastward, you get some really nice targets that all have good soil anomalies on top of them. So what do we do next? We're going to get the rest of our drill results, and we have a lot yet to come in. We're really keen on getting these results in for next week. That's for OS7, and we're hoping that we'll get some good results similar to what we had in OS6. We want to get our U.S. forestry permits done for our top priority projects, and we want to keep drilling. This is a place you can drill all season long, and that's exactly what we'd like to do. And I think we've got some good results. These are game-changing results, and we're really happy that our program went the way it did. Come to the booth. We've got lots to talk about, and we'll have a new website this week, and watch for that. And thank you very much for taking the time.